So this is Doug Dillingham. This is my presentation for Module 3, and I'm going to discuss teacher tenure, what it is, where did it go, go through a couple of the Supreme Court rulings on it, and just go through a few opinions, what my opinion is, and yeah, just get a little further into this. So what is teacher tenure? We're going to start here. Teacher tenure is a law that gave teachers who were fired or dismissed after 3 years in the classroom the right to an independent review of their cases. The legal definition of teacher tenure is tenure provides those teachers who have demonstrated competence after a probationary period with due process rights before being fired. I put this last little bit in here because there's a lot of outside looking in type thoughts on teacher tenure and things of that nature. Most people think that teachers are just guaranteed a job for life when they're tenured, and they can literally get away with, literally get away with murder before being fired. It is not, as critics contend, a job for life. Their teacher, it is still a job. It is something that they can still be fired. They just have due process before this happens. The benefits of tenure eliminates the need for an employment contract. Tenure isn't a guarantee for every teacher, what some people do think. It protects teachers against financial decisions, that meaning that um, if a teacher gets to a certain financial standing, they're at the top of the pay scale, they can't be fired just because of that. They, again, are allowed due process. Allows teachers to advocate for their students and eliminates subjective termination. Subjective termination deals with, I think you probably see this more at smaller districts rather than the larger districts, where if your history teacher happens to be the football coach and he doesn't play the board member's son in football as much as what the board member thinks he does, the board member can then have kind of a vendetta, so to say, against that teacher, and the teacher can be fired because there is a dislike there from someone else. That's probably not the greatest example in the world, but it is just an idea of what that subjective termination can be. Why tenure should be kept. If we're going to talk on a positive note, tenure protects academic freedom. In the absence of tenure, teachers may be fired for any reason. Teachers may be fired if the principal doesn't like them, or if they're experienced and become too expensive. Teachers may be fired for being outspoken. In a way, like, I feel like tenure protects the teachers and allows them to feel safety and comfort in doing their job. They are not going to be fired for saying that something is wrong within the school, or because they are at that top salary level, or those types of things that um, we can see. I do come prior to being a teacher. I was in a different career field, and I did see people being forced out for, being at a higher pay scale, or almost kind of in a harassing way. People that have been there for 30 years and they're at a high scale, and the company was trying to cut back. Um, and they would receive tons of emails. Hey, why don't you take the early retirement package? Let's get you on the way. Things like that. This tenure did keep those things from happening. Also, it enables teachers to grade honestly, to speak out for students' needs, to teach controversial subjects, and to blow the whistle on corruption and poor practices. It allows teachers to teach without fear, particularly necessary in today's politically charged climate. I'm not going to go into politics with this thing, but we do know that we are in a very heated political time, where it's very split down the middle. There's not a lot of gray area in there. So it's pretty much pick a side and you have to roll with it. And it can lead to a lot of problems. So I, I do think tenure could be very beneficial in protecting teachers in that area. The cons of teacher tenure: it makes it difficult to remove teachers with disciplinary issues. These things do happen. Teachers make bad decisions, make mistakes, things like that. Um, and at times should be removed for some of the decisions they are making. prior to tenure being removed, you did hear about some things happening, and teachers probably should have been removed but weren't as a result. It may stop teachers from being motivated. Personal experience, both of my parents were teachers. Um, my mother was actually a head teacher her last year of teaching prior to retirement. The principal had left kind of abruptly, things like that, so she had to do that. Um, and she talked a lot about that. I remember listening to her that, a couple of the teachers had been tenured that year and they were great their first 3 years, phenomenal teachers. And once they were tenured, they became very lazy, and it was evident in their work and the students, and so on, that they'd really stopped trying. Bad policies can lead to easy tenure. Sometimes schools have it way too their policies are too easy, things like that, and teachers that probably shouldn't be tenured are getting into that tenured position. And after that, it is difficult to move on from those teachers. Why teachers should not have tenure. Just a couple examples. I found a really cool resource, pro and con quotes. It showed both sides. It's a really cool website. I'll read a couple. As if incompetent teachers in far too many classrooms don't pose enough of a threat to quality education, the time it takes to actually dismiss an inept teacher is appalling. Furthermore, the sheer cost of the process is severe, and totally unnecessary strain on state and local education budgets. A lot of the arguments I did notice tended to lean toward the financial side of trying to get rid of a teacher and the amount it costs taxpayers. All told, it can take up to 18 months and cost taxpayers $250,000 to replace a single poorly performing teacher. I do get that argument. Prior to being in teaching and prior to studying this a little bit more for this assignment, I always kind of was against teachers having tenure. I thought it was kind of ridiculous, and from the outside looking in again, um, thinking that they could literally get away with whatever they want and still hang on to a job. Whereas other people are out there working their tails off and can be fired for something minimal. If they would have done the same thing in that job, they would have been canned immediately. But sometimes, yeah, outside looking in isn't always the case. And after studying this a little more, I'm leaning a lot more towards, understanding why teachers did have tenure, and the importance of that tenure. Where are we now? Um, there's been a few attempts trying to get teacher tenure back in the state of Kansas. The bottom one, 2018, the Kansas House gave first round approval Wednesday to a bill that would restore teacher tenure rights, also known as due process rights, to prevent veteran teachers from being summarily fired or not reviewed or renewed for the following year without just cause. 2020, it was brought back again. The Kansas Supreme Court has unanimously rejected a lawsuit by the state's main teachers union challenging a 2014 law that ended teacher tenure, but the union expects further court challenges over the law. I do think that this is far from over, and it's pretty evident here. This first happened in 2014, where they did dismiss tenure, but I mean, you can see, and there was others in here. I just thought these two were interesting, and they are fairly recent. Um, but yeah, 2018, 2020. I don't think this is over. I think that the teachers unions are going to keep bringing this back and bringing this back until there's a rule change or they finally get tired of fighting this. Um, I I do think that tenure should be considered again. We have a major teacher shortage in the state of Kansas, and there's a lot of things I think they need to look at. Um, and this is one thing that could bring people back to teaching, is a little bit of job security and things like that, especially with you know things being the way they are in our current climate. People do want safety, they want security, and this could help with that. Most importantly, let's see what students think about this. This was a study. I had trouble finding one, but this one, it did deal with more college level, but at the same time, it's an idea. Students are much more likely to have a positive opinion of tenure than a negative one. 57% compared to 18%. and the positive outlook jumps to 76% when not sure responses are removed. So students don't really have a problem with teachers being tenured, and honestly, I think it probably adds to their feelings of safety as well, knowing that teachers are going to be there, good ones, knowing that those good teachers will be there and won't be removed. So, before I go completely to my reference page, I just want to say that this has been a really valuable uh, delve into understanding more about tenure and things like that. Like I said prior, I hadn't really thought much about it. I knew it was gone, so I didn't put much time into it. And I kind of had a negative view of it from the outside looking in. But now that I do understand more of the ins and outs, why it is beneficial to teachers to have that tenure, I'm 100% for it. Yes, there are a few bad apples that take advantage of things, but that's in anything. Um, I think the majority would become better as a result of tenure and things like that. And also, as I stated before, we're in a major teacher shortage. I work at a very small school in Southwest Kansas. We're short. Larger schools such as Garden City, Kansas, are unbelievably short on teachers. And are we bringing in bad by putting nothing against full-time substitutes? That's a great thing that people do that, but we're not hiring teachers that are there to be our teachers for our students. And is this hurting the educational system? So it's just another thing to think about. Do we make teachers' jobs more secure, and could this bring people back to the profession of teaching, which is an amazing thing, but we keep driving people away from it, and this could bring people back. Thank you. There's my reference list. Really enjoyed this assignment, learned a lot from it. Appreciate it.